Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be taking a look at my 70-200 f2.8 L lens. This is a Mark 1 and this is what I use currently as my go-to kind of if I'm taking photos like this where you're through an enclosure and they're fairly close and you've got low light. I'll kick out this and use the 70-200 at 2.8 to try and get those kind of photos. I use the lens on everything. I use it for everything from my Mark 4 1D all the way up to the R7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you photos from each camera system. So I have the 1DX, the 1DX Mark II, and from the R7 as well. So I can show you that these older lenses, these pretty much at this point vintage lenses, because this is the first generation 70-200L, do work with the more modern, newer cameras that Canon make, and they work very well. And these lenses aren't massively expensive. I paid less than £500 for this lens. So for the quality of image you can get from this lens and the fact it does still work with the more modern stuff, it's definitely something to look out for if you're looking to add a 70-200 to your lenses, which you should. If you're a wildlife photographer, you should always have a 70-200 in my opinion. But first of all, we'll look through the lens itself like we usually do, and then we'll hop into the photos and show you what you can get from a lens like this. So guys, this is the 70-200 that I have. It's the Mark 1. You've got your nice, quite large removable cover there, lens cap on there, which does come through quite nicely. It's got a velvet interior in there to stop the light sort of spray through. I'll remove that so we just get ourselves a bit more space to look at the lens itself. You've got your tripod collar, because this is a very early L lens. You don't have the locking points every quarter, so you do have to very much line it up by eye, and then if you're on a quarter you just have to leave it loose, really is the ideal thing. You can remove it, so it is removable if people don't want to use that. I personally use it because I have, as you can see here, black rapid sling, and that's how I carry the lenses around. So I have one of these on my 300, I have one here. This is only 1.3 kilos, so it's a fairly light lens, to be honest. It's definitely more than ample handheld. When I first started doing wildlife photography, I used one of these, 2.8, with a ×2 converter if I needed it, which gave me the 140 to 400 at 5.6. So you have a very capable and usable lens, and even the photos with the 2×2 converter, which I've done in my previous video about the converters, which I'll link below, is a very, very capable and very sharp setup. So don't be afraid to use converters on here. You've got your manual focus ring there, you've got your zoom ring here. As you see, when you zoom, the lens doesn't protrude at all, so it's really good for shooting up against glass, because if you're at 70 and then the animal gets further away, you can shoot to 200, and with some lenses you'll get movement on the front here, and that'll push you away from the lens and maybe put you off your shot a little bit there. So that's quite nice that it's all inbuilt. As it's the f2.8, so it is a little bit heavier, but you get that lower aperture, which is really nice to have. You've got your locking modes here for the zoom, so if you want to your focus, you can limit down the focus distances, which means the focusing technically is quicker, so you can limit it down to 2.5 and it'll be quicker between 2.5 and infinite. I always keep it 1.4, you don't know when you're going to need something super close, so I keep it at that. Autofocus manual switches, your stability on and off, and I believe this has 3 angle stability in the lens itself, and you've got your modes 1 and 2. I always tend to leave it on 1, and you can obviously change it over to 2 and use those between there. The button feel themselves, the switch feel themselves, should I say, they feel very tight. They are an old system, so you have to expect that it's not going to feel crisp and new. The reason I want to get the Mark II is pretty much the same as the Mark III, except from the body design itself is ever so slightly different, but it's just ever so slightly sharper, looking at sort of the reviews and some of the write-ups, and it'll just be a lens that I can actually have serviced as well. This being at the age it is, you can't have it serviced by Canon anymore, so that's one thing to sort of think about when you look at these older lenses like my 300mm and my 500mm. Neither of them are actually able to be serviced anymore. Same with my Mark 4 1D, that can't be serviced anymore. Even the 1DXs are getting harder for people to get serviced. You can still do shutter services, but that's about it really. So you have to consider that buying older kit as well, is serviceability. All my kit's insured though, so if I do damage it accidentally, it's on the insurance and I'll just get the monetary value of this to put towards a new lens. So that's the overview of the lens itself, and look at it. What we're going to do now is we'll move on to the photos taken. We'll look at a photo from the 1DX, the 1DX Mark II and the R7. So I'll catch you there in a second. So the first photo we're going to look at is of a baby squirrel monkey with its mother that was taken using the 1DX. This is very low light. You can see a bit of noise in the photo itself, but focus point was aimed at the baby monkey's eye. So 2.8, so you can see the mum, her hands and stuff are slightly out of focus. That's because of the depth of field used on here, but it's still a very usable photo on a 10, 11-year-old camera with a very old lens, and still absolutely usable and more than sufficient for what you need with one of these. Next photo we're going to look at is taken on the 1DX Mark II. This is a Fennec Fox, again through glass, low light, absolutely perfect, no worries whatsoever with the photo. Super sharp on the eye, a little bit of noise, but the detail itself where it matters on the Fox itself is absolutely perfect, so no worries on that one either. Finally, we're going to look at a tree boa here. This is taken at London Zoo. The eye tracking was spot on the R7, and it literally picked up the eye. This is through glass, stepped away from the glass as well because of where the snake was positioned itself, but still super sharp where it needs to be. It is a darker enclosure but has got a light above it, so the noise isn't too bad. It is obviously as well on a newer camera being the R7, but absolutely perfect, spot on. Again, very usable photo, no worries at all with 7200 here. So guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned some things. I hope you've learned that you can actually kind of look at these older lenses and not really worry as much about them as you potentially currently do when you're buying like either like an R10 or R7, something more modern, or even some of the older sort of 1DX and stuff. You don't have to worry about buying it. As long as it's a good, well looked after Mark 1, you can use it and you can get very good quality photos out of it. So definitely something I recommend doing. At some point I'm going to try and upgrade to a Mark II, just because I'm in a position where I feel like I should be moving up now. Same with my 300mm, that's a Mark 1. I will get a Mark II at some point after I've got the 200 to 400 is the priority, and then there's been some requests for some macro photography as well. So I will be buying a 100mm L macro lens, and I'm almost potentially going to do that as like almost like a series of learning how to do macro review, because I've never done it before. So it'd be good to kind of learn and show you how I'm learning and the way the photos develop over that time. So let me know if you're keen to see that, and I'll get that moved forward. And as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, comment and like. Let me know what you're using. Let me know if you're still using one of these lenses too, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.